where we help you make sense of West Africa's investment world. This podcast is brought to you by BOA, your most comprehensive platform for investing in African stocks, bonds, and managed funds. You can download the BOA app on your favorite Google and Apple app stores. Today, we are looking at the BRVM market performance for the week of March 9th to 13th. And we start with some encouraging news. After a period of cautious sentiment, the regional stock market returned to positive territory this week. Investors showed renewed interest in several major companies listed on the exchange, and some stocks delivered particularly strong performances. In this episode, we will walk through three key developments. First, the performance of the main BRVM market indexes. Second, the top performing stocks of the week. And third, what happened in the bond market, which continues to attract strong investor interest. Most importantly, we will explain what these movements mean for investors across West Africa. Let's begin with the overall market trend. During the week of March 9th to March 13th, the BRVM Composite Index, which represents the entire regional stock market, rose by 0.55%, closing the week at 413.71 points. The BRVM 30 Index, which tracks the 30 most actively traded companies on the exchange, also rose by 0.44%, ending the week at 193.05 points. Only the BRVM Prestige Index, which includes some of the largest companies on the exchange, recorded a slight decline of 0.76%, finishing at 161.56 points. Overall, the message is clear. The regional equity market showed signs of recovery. This improvement is also visible in the distribution of stock performances. During the week, 27 stocks rose, 17 stocks declined, 3 stocks remained unchanged. In simple terms, there were more buyers than sellers on the market. For investors, this often signals a gradual return of risk appetite, after the cautious tone seen during the previous week. However, market activity tells an additional story. Even though the market indexes rose, trading volumes declined compared with the previous week. A total of 6,203,667 shares were traded, compared with 7,444,602 shares the week before. The total value of transactions also declined, reaching about 9.13 billion francs CFA, compared with 10.63 billion francs CFA during the previous week. What does that mean? It means the market moved higher with slightly lighter participation from investors. For experienced market participants, this is an indicator worth monitoring. When prices rise with strong volumes, it usually confirms a powerful trend. When volumes fall while prices rise, it can indicate a more selective market environment. Now, let's look at the top performing stocks of the week. The standout performer on the BRVM this week was Setao Côte d'Ivoire. The stock recorded a remarkable gain of 40%, closing at 2,660 francs CFA. Yes, 40% in just 1 week. This exceptional performance reflects renewed investor interest in the construction and building materials sector. The sector index itself experienced a strong rebound during the week, suggesting that investors may be anticipating greater infrastructure activity and construction demand across the region. For investors, this kind of sector movement can create opportunities. When capital flows into a specific sector, the companies operating within that sector often benefit from increased market attention and higher valuations. The second strongest performer of the week was Bank of Africa Benin. The stock rose 12.54%, reaching 7,950 francs CFA. Banks play a central role in the BRVM market, so movements in banking stocks often reflect broader economic expectations. In third place was Bank of Africa Burkina Faso, which climbed 12.08%, finishing the week at 5,290 francs CFA. The presence of 2 banking stocks among the week's top performers highlights something important. Banking institutions are often seen as a barometer of economic confidence. When bank stocks perform well, it often signals that investors expect continued credit growth and economic activity across the region. Other companies that performed strongly during the week included Solibra, Côte d'Ivoire, and Secor Côte d'Ivoire, both of which delivered double-digit gains. This broad participation across sectors suggests that the positive momentum was not limited to a single industry. Of course, not every stock moved higher. The largest decline of the week came from Secabo Côte d'Ivoire, whose share price fell 17.34%, ending the week at 3,290 francs CFA. This decline appears to be largely driven by profit-taking. Profit-taking happens when investors sell shares after a strong rally in order to lock in their gains. It is a natural and healthy part of market cycles. Now let's turn to the bond market, which continues to show strong stability. The BRVM bond market maintained its positive trajectory during the week. The market capitalization of listed bonds rose by 1.08%, reaching 11,911.9 billion francs CFA, compared with 11,185.0 billion francs CFA during the previous week. This trend highlights continued investor demand for fixed income securities, which provide predictable interest payment. In total, 982,203 bonds were traded during the week, representing a transaction value of approximately 9.39 billion francs CFA. Most of this activity was concentrated in a sovereign bond with a long maturity. The 15-year government bond issued in 2023 dominated trading activity, with 280,001 bonds exchanged for a total value of 2.79 billion francs CFA. That single bond accounted for about 30% of all bond market transactions during the week. This strong demand illustrates something important. Investors remain confident in long-term sovereign bonds that offer attractive yields and stable income streams. For portfolio managers and individual investors alike, bonds can provide stability and diversification, especially when equity markets become more volatile. Another major highlight of the week was the continued dominance of Sonatel Senegal in market activity. Sonatel captured 17.65% of the total trading value on the BRVM, with transactions reaching approximately 1.61 billion francs CFA. This confirms once again that Sonatel remains one of the most influential companies in the regional market. For many investors, Sonatel represents a cornerstone investment due to its strong fundamentals, consistent dividends, and regional leadership in telecommunications. So what does all of this mean for investors going forward? The overall picture suggests that market sentiment is gradually improving. Several sectors have begun to attract renewed investor attention, and the bond market continues to demonstrate strong stability. However, the decline in trading volumes suggests that investors remain selective and cautious. This means opportunities exist, but identifying them requires careful analysis and market insight. Looking ahead to the coming week, analysts are identifying several companies that may present attractive valuation gaps relative to their target prices. At the same time, some stocks that experience strong gains may face short-term consolidation as investors lock in profits. This is why following detailed market analysis can make a real difference. And that is exactly where DABA Pro comes in. With DABA Pro, investors gain access to weekly stock recommendations, in-depth company analysis, exclusive market data, and tools designed to help investors build wealth across African markets. With DABA Pro, you are not simply watching the markets, you are staying ahead of them. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to the DABA MarketsTalk podcast. We'll be back next week with another update. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating, follow us, and share with friends. Remember, this information is for educational purposes. Always do your own research or consult with a financial advisor before making investment decisions. And download the DABA app on your App Store to start investing in African stocks, bonds, and manage portfolios through your phone and find other helpful content. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing your financial knowledge.